Hi guys, it's Nina from VRFocus and we're here today with...
Ben Collins from Slightly Mad Studios and Project Cars 2.
Can you tell me a little bit about the game and what you've been working on?
So I've been with the guys since about 2011 with Project Cars 1, and for me this is one long journey in a way. It's been really exciting from the get-go. Basically Ian Bell, who's the head of the studio, wanted to make a game that was as realistic as possible. So I was brought in to be a consultant for the physics and handling and used my real-world experience to try and make that miracle happen. And it really seemed to be, you know, the detail, the level of detail, what they wanted to go to. They were going to replicate every nut and bolt, every aspect of the engine, the sounds, the looks, the feels, everything. It was a huge task, and so the first game, you know, came out a couple of years ago, was really mind-blowing because we had, you know, 4K resolution. It really achieved the dynamic feel that you wanted to have, where the cars felt intuitive across a whole range from supercars to racing cars, Le Mans, you know, all kinds of motorsport. For Project Cars 2, we want to take it to the next level in terms of being able to have even more immersion in the cars, but also to be able to slide around, do all the crazy stuff, rally cross, drifting, oval racing, so very, very high speeds and also big angles of yaw with tyres spinning and generating smoke, and for that to be real, not just to be like an arcade. So it was another mammoth task, and we're now in the final steps to that top of the mountain, and again, I mean, I'm really proud to have been in it because we've achieved so much, and I think it's a really pioneering game.
Tell us a little bit more about how you went into VR. Was this something that you wanted to do? You thought it was a game, and then you were introduced to VR. How do you see the plus and negative sides of VR?
So I began using you know, back on PCs in the 2000s. In fact, no, I got my decades wrong. Like the late 90s, we had these things to learn tracks, and I was racing in Formula 3. And really, I'd use anything and everything to memorise where the corners would go to tracks I'd not visited before. You get a rhythm and a feel for, you know, roughly what gear you should be in and what to expect. They were very, very primitive, and really, in the cold light of day, they were rubbish. I was really excited to try and make something that was much more pure. And what we're doing now, they are becoming so lifelike. It's fantastic. I mean, and the level of resolution, I think one thing you can see, I mean, I love the VR, being immersed with the Oculus, and it's, well, one of the tracks, my favourites, I got it slightly wrong at a chicane and ended up crashing, and I had the headset on, and everybody was laughing because I went into a brace position as I went spearing into a wall. And they said that's typical of a racing driver, because with the headset on, you get that convinced of, you know, you start thinking about your own safety. So it's that convincing for us, and we race these things in real life. You always want more, so we're always developing, you know, more nuance through the steering wheel. I still think with the goggles, we can still do with more resolution because they're not quite 4K, and you can't quite see down the very, very long straights. All of that is coming, and, you know, in a way, we're now a step ahead of the VR, I think, in terms of what the games engine can deliver. You know, as you know, technology is changing so quickly. We know that the next year's screens are going to be that much more impressive, and really, I think it's going to add more value to the game and the realism.
So I think I was talking with your colleague as well about sort of the idea of immersion and bringing it to the public. Do you think that this would be really helpful in bringing people more into both virtual reality and racing? For
sure. I mean, I think the average person spends £400 or £500 learning to get their driving license in whichever country you're from, you know, America, Britain, wherever, and it takes a lot of time. Basically, what we have is so realistic. You've got everything from a clutch, brake, accelerator, gears. If you buy the chair, you plug it into a PlayStation or an Xbox or your PC, and then you can go and drive. So you can learn those core skills that I did on country lanes with my mother hitting me in the face with a handbag, telling me to slow down and to listen, which I'm now understanding as I'm getting in with my kids. All of that could be done, you know, from the safety of this sim. And we had some guys came out to Sweden because we've been developing an ice track, and we've got cars sliding around in the ice and snow. They jumped into cars and were sliding, and one of my friends said, "Oh, so you've been here before?" And he said, "Only in the sim." So it's really amazing that there's enough connection. You can go from VR to real life and have learned enough to deploy those skills. VR suits driving and flying the best because both of them, when you sit down and the controls make you speed up and slow down and turn. I think, you know, it's going to be harder for things like Call of Duty, where you're expecting to run unless you've got a trackpad to run on. I think really we're going to be the ones developing this the fastest.
Wow. I mean, how much does it cost, sort of, to get the whole bundle together?
So buy a platform. So I guess what is that? That's a few £100s, isn't it now? The chair, actually, I think for a chair and a steering wheel and some pedals, I think you're looking around sort of £200. So it's not crazy. It's pretty expensive. Or you can go and spend as much as 15, 20,000, 30,000 pounds for these Vasaro rigs that we're lucky enough to be driving here. But actually, I'm very happy in a chair with a steering wheel. Mine's a Logitech, which is quite a simple system. It's off the shelf, and you get really amazing feedback through the steering wheel. If you brake too hard, you feel a tug at the steering wheel. It behaves very naturally and organically. Ironically, there's more feedback now in the game than in some of these modern cars that are being produced with electric power assisted steering, and actually the wheel can be quite numb. So really we're able to mirror all different characteristics of a whole range of different cars, and people can experience that in game.
So does that mean that there's car manufacturers going to you to learn more about the steering of the car and putting that into electric cars now?
Interestingly, because the old days hydraulic steering, you were connected from the steering column through to the tyres. So when the tyre hit something or skidded, you could feel that through the wheel, and it was intuitive. Regardless of whether you're a racing driver or not, you would feel that happening. With the electric powered systems, the feeling is quite numb, and they are having to engineer in the feedback in the same way that we are. So I'm sure that the two worlds can learn a lot from each other, and we're developing AI, artificial intelligence, for the opponents that we're racing with.
Yes.
The guy's been pioneering that for a long time, and I know there's a department in the studio that is advising manufacturers, because the next generation of cars allegedly are going to drive themselves, and they need to have those kind of thinking skills.
Have you managed to convince any friends to buy the game and a car racing, and they've gone out and gone, okay, now I can actually try and race as well? Yeah,
well, there's a few million of them now. So the first game did so well. Project Cars has got the biggest online esports community. People are there. I get pretty smashed up online if I dare to tread into their territory, because the sim racers are really hardcore, and they've got a lot of hours on their belt. And they're very, very great. They're serious drivers and they're serious competitors. So there are now sponsored teams racing on esports. This is not news anymore. Again, it's an opportunity for people to cross over, and that's a proven thing. There's a lot of people who are honing their skills in the game and then transferring that into competition, because a lot of the discipline is the same. You've got that competitive instinct to spend enough time perfecting a skill, and it does translate. Plus the fear factor that you get with the real world. Obviously, if you get used to hitting things quite hard, it doesn't hurt in the virtual reality, but in real world concrete is serious stuff.
Well, I'm really excited to find out more about the game and seeing what you guys are doing in the future. What are the next steps? The
next steps, like Rod said, well, he wants to stop bringing things into the game, and I'm there saying more. Let's get more cars and more tracks. We've really bitten off a big lump with going across to so many different types of motorsport, like I say, the oval racing and the rallycross, as well as trying to stay dominant in what we started with the circuit racing. It's a lot to get right. The bit I'm proudest about is the live weather, because I love racing in the rain, and we have got such an exceptionally real live active weather system that can rain on one part of the track. You can develop aquaplane, you hit puddles are changing shape and affecting the car absolutely organically the way they would in real life. And as a racing driver, it's something that teams never let you practice, because they don't want to risk the car. With us, we can obviously spend as much time as you want. If you want to go and drive in a thunderstorm and get wet, you can have at it. So yeah, it's gonna surprise people.
Sounds like you're training the next Star Wars pilots.
Could be. That'll be next.
Next is that.
They did Red Bull Air Racing and Project Cars too, so that could be next.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much for the interview. And where can we find out more information about the game?
Well, we're all over Project Cars Twitter, so there's Project Cars Game on Instagram and Twitter. You'll see all the latest, greatest images and links to websites and everything. And obviously Bandai Namco is publishing the game later this year. So there's lots of news up until the launch, but hopefully, like third or fourth quarter, we'll get it in our hands, and you'll get to try it. But there's one downstairs, so you should go and set a time in the IndyCar.
Well, thank you so much. Please go to VRFocus.com if you want to find out any more information about any VR news or games, and we look forward to trying out the game and reviewing and seeing how realistic it is.
And racing you online. We're going for one of these?
Do it.
Or
one of these. No, that was awkward. We should do that again.
Keep it conventional. So modern.